Who's the...
Don't know.
Hello and welcome to MOATAIF. My name is Julia Simpson. Welcome. 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 RJ Quillen. Zach Roberts. That's the hosts. This is a show. Welcome. I'm Julia. Here they are.
Thanks, Julia.
She's
fired. I
yeah,
hate her.
She's immediately fired. But I mean, we've gone through. Artie's the best. Obviously,
yeah, we need Artie back.
But now he's in jail.
Yeah,
for murder. And
his trial is next week.
And not only that, but then Steven's in jail too.
Oh,
for some
he went
for
to jail?
whatever. Yeah. For whatever reason, I don't really understand how they connected him to the crime. When
I still have post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah.
Disorder.
Yeah. So this week, we have a few things to talk about.
We really don't have anything.
Well, I've been thinking of a few things.
We got a few things apparently.
Yeah.
Just seconds ago, we had nothing.
Yeah, but then a few ideas just came into my mind since last week. I'll list out the topics for you so that way you kind of know where the show's going. Okay. Mostly for RJ. I figured we could talk about Hotel Hell.
Oh yeah, it's a great show.
Chiller Thriller.
Okay.
And the Republican debate.
That I didn't watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah. So it'll mostly be me talking to you about it. And then, of course, it'll lead into other political discussions. Why are you laying like this, Bella?
Hi, Bella.
She's so cute. She's literally so cute. I can confirm that she is super
Shut the fuck
cute.
up, Emily.
My name's Julia.
Same thing.
It's not the same, honestly. If you know the letters, it's
literally
not the same. Well, I've got to close out the show.
No, you don't.
I've got to close out the show. It's in my fucking one-day contract, you fucking fat son of a bitch. Julia, that was a little far.
That's really hurtful, Julie.
Well, it's
You don't know what it's like to have post-traumatic syndrome. You don't know what it's like to have post-traumatic syndrome.
Well, all I know is... Why is this room infested with ladybugs? I could see two.
I hate ladybugs.
They stink when you kill them.
Stink bugs.
Yeah. They're like...
Those aren't...
Oh, shit! It flew. It looked right. It looked like right. It looked right at us, and then opened its wings and started flying. Holy shit!
Okay.
My life just flashed before my eyes. It was
I almost tipped the chair over.
That was so fucking scary.
We almost just got killed by a ladybug.
So hang on, boys. So what happened was, over the last... What should we start with?
Hotel Hell.
Yeah. We discovered, while we were hanging out on the, ATT-Uverse on demand, a show called Hotel Hell
And
on
we were
Fox.
all out of shows to watch.
Yeah,
we usually watch Lizard Lick Towing.
Or Billy on the Street and Practical Jokers. Pretty much anything on True TV.
Except for Adam Ruins Everything. We hate Adam Ruins Everything.
And we also hate
the Fine Brothers show.
We hate Grandfathered, but that's on Fox. We hate The Grinder.
Oh, yeah, we hate Grinder.
I also hate The Voice. That's also on Fox, but we haven't seen that many ads for that.
I hate Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, we hate Shaquille O'Neal, Icy Hot, and Gold Bond medicated foot ointment.
How does he have two commercials that play constantly?
Yeah,
for two different products on Fox.
I don't know. But what I do know is Hotel Hell is essentially Kitchen Nightmares, but for hotels, starring Gordon Ramsay.
It's Kitchen Nightmares with hotels.
Yeah, and he focuses a lot on the kitchen, but then also he just complains about the room.
Yeah, at first we were like, why is Gordon Ramsay doing hotels? He's not qualified.
Yeah, he's really not. It's not like he's a famous hotel person.
Almost all of the second season, we still think he's not qualified.
Yeah, it's so good though. But every time he's like, "You've got to put the customer first." That's obvious.
Yeah,
he's just saying obvious
advice.
generic things. But when he's like, "You've got to liven up the room and like
Why is
modernize
it so beige?
Yeah, like you're just kind of like, but what do you know, Gordon? Like,
Yeah.
but
Like, you're a chef.
let's So the basic premise of every episode, just like Kitchen Nightmares, is this is a shit hotel with a shit kitchen. The food's shit. The rooms are shit, and the attendance is shit.
The hotels, like, they all have like really nice restaurants that like warrants the chefs wearing like the chef uniform. You know what I mean? Like the little button up.
Yeah.
I don't know like why it's like standard for chefs to wear that.
I don't either.
I've never seen anybody wear that.
Yeah,
like, in real life.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like fucking some hotel in the middle of Wyoming, they wear them.
Yeah. And for some reason, almost all the hotels have like some historic aspect to them. They're like old as shit. And basically Gordon comes in, just like on Kitchen Nightmares, he like tastes the food, he sleeps in the room, and then he fucking yells at them, remodels it, and then leaves.
Yeah.
And it's great. So maybe now we should like explain. Do we have a favorite episode yet? Like, I think I have a favorite episode.
I feel like my favorite episode was the like one with the two bitches.
Yeah, Vanda and Rena.
Yeah, the two bitches that fuck shit up. Just because they were like fuck ups.
Well, yeah, tell them about it.
Oh yeah, so like, I don't even know how to say. Like these two like girls like were just.
Their dad bought them a hotel.
Yeah, their dad bought them a hotel, and they're just like. They hated their employees.
Yeah.
Because they're like, sorry we gave you a job, and you like fucking get tips and get paid, you fucking bitches. Like, oh my god, your life must be so hard. Like, this one girl, like cry all the time.
She cried so much. And they were literally rude to their employees, like for no reason.
Such idiots.
They had like good employees too, and people who actually like all the employees had been there longer than like the owners had, and they just came in and like ran it to shit, and then were mad.
Yeah, and the general manager quit. She's like,
I'm not doing it, but I'm not doing it.
And then she quit because she's like, she lives in a trailer, I think. Or she lived in like some shitty house. She was like poor but she was a nice lady. She was like
towards the end of the episode, Gordon's like, "What the fuck is going on here?" And they're just like, "We want to stop. Like we just want to like stop
we don't like
doing
this.
Like this is not meant for us." So instead of selling the hotel, they just brought back the girl who quit, let her run it, and then they just moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
They were so happy to move to Minneapolis. Like he's like, then move back to Minneapolis. She's like, oh my god!
And she literally started crying.
She's like, yes, that's what I've always wanted, Gordon. Thanks.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck you, Rena. Like, she was so ugly.
Like, she could have moved to Minneapolis anyway.
At any given moment, like, she could have moved back to Minneapolis. I don't know why she decided to, like, own this
Here's
hotel.
another good episode, the one with, like, the three idiots.
Yeah, the Murphy's Hotel.
Is that your favorite one?
No, my favorite one is actually, like, I think, like, because the funniest one to me was the fucking Cher lady that we watched last night.
Was a good
that
episode.
was fucking hilarious.
That was a hilarious episode.
This bitch tried to have a singing career, and her name was, what was it? Callie. It's literally spelled SZCZ Awinski. So like Siskowinski, and she tried to have a singing career. That didn't work out for her, so she then bought a hotel just so she could sing in it every night. And she thought she was the best at Cher. She did an actual like Cher impression.
And she sat, that's the only song she sang.
Yeah, that they showed. And she like threw herself into it. Like she did the ugliest like facial expression. So fucking funny because it's like there's like three people in the dining room
and they're all,
she's
like,
just
laughing at her.
Yeah, and she's singing like if I go down back time, but like horrible. It wasn't even like it was a good Cher impression, I guess, but it was like one of those like over the top like stereotypical Cher impressions.
Yeah, like
but the bitch also just couldn't sing. And she come to find out that like her general manager that she brought in to like save the day was talking shit behind her back. So like they have this confrontation near the freezer, and she's like, "Turns out you're just a dirty, slimy, rotten, no good, stab in the back asshole," and then fired him.
Pretty accurate, like what she said. And she's like, "You're fired." And he's like, "Okay."
So then Gordon goes through like all this stuff, like revamping her pool, like giving her all this new furniture, like repainting, like doing all this nice shit. And then when he like leaves to go like do something else for a second, like go to a different, to set up for another big reveal or whatever, she's like, "This is too much work." Like he gave us like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, like
she's like, we gotta go out she's like, we gotta go out every night for an hour and like put all this stuff away like every night and put it all up in the morning. Like we're just not gonna do it. And she was complaining because he got rid of these plastic grapes that she had hanging in her kitchen or in like the dining room because it covered up a hole in the wall. So, like, Gordon takes her out to the dumpster, and he's like, if you want all this shit back, like, I'll put it on the fucking patio and take my shit and fucking leave. And she's like, no, I'm more grateful than you'd ever know.
He's like, we have a weird way of showing it.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And then just, like, ran away. Like, I was so confused. Like, I would have been so pissed.
Yeah, I would have just, like...
I would have just taken it.
He did $150,000 worth of renovations.
So he says.
Like, just even... I thought, like, he spent, like, tops $15,000 on each place.
Yeah, like...
How could Fox afford that?
Yeah, literally, like, how could they?
Like, well, that's Family Guy's
but he
budget
also
going.
said, like... He also said that, like, Overstock.com, like, donated a lot of it
yeah,
for them to just say, like, Overstock.com donated this. Like, kind of like how on Extreme Home Makeover, like, they do it for, like, free, essentially, because they're donating it for the publicity of being on the show. So I think that probably has a little bit to do with it. But it's a great show. Like, we're running out of episodes, and it's kind of sad because...
I love Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, it's such an interesting show, like, because it's... You know, Hell's Kitchen and MasterChef are kind of competition series. Like, you kind of got to watch every episode to kind of know, like, who the people are, like, how they've grown, like, who should win. But Kitchen Nightmares and Hotel Hell are interesting to watch because it's... I mean, and I don't know if it's, like, true TV where it's pretty much fake, but I don't think most of it is. But there have been a few times...
I think, like, there is stuff that's faked, but I feel like for the most part, like, why would they fake it?
Yeah. Well, there was one episode of Kitchen Nightmares where where Gordon found, like, an actual, like, mouse. Like, a dead mouse in, like, the freezer or something like that. And the guy, like, said Gordon Ramsay put it in there on purpose, and then, like, Gordon left. Because he was so offended. He's like, why would I ever do that? And he's like, well, I don't know, to get more ratings. Because he's like, we've never had a mouse. Like, he's like, it's literally right here. So, it makes you wonder, like, I wonder if any of it is put on or if it is mostly reality.
Who knows? But it's a great show.
It is, and it's fun to watch, and it's like as soon as this is over, like
so
we'll
much
probably
good time.
like as soon as this is over, we will probably watch an episode of Hotel Hell.
I think there's like a 100% chance that we will.
Yeah, there is a 100% chance that will be happening.
I'm very excited to watch Hotel Hell.
Me too. Let's wrap it up. I'm just saying, like we're like not even 15 minutes in. We're like wrap it up. We gotta get to Hotel Hell. What was the other thing we wanted to talk about? Oh, Chiller Thriller.
Chiller Thriller.
So my high school, or our high school...
Alma mater.
Yeah, our alma mater.
Alma mater. Is that really what it is?
Yeah.
I thought that was only for college.
No. We do a variety... The show choir does a variety show every year, and, you know, anybody can be in it. It should just be show choir, but anybody can be in it, and they can do any act that they want, you know, according to, like, the school guidelines or whatever. And by everybody's account, like not just mine, I was this, like, Brianna Nicole Reagan and I were the stars of Chiller Thriller and Spring Fever. Like, people came to see, like, what we were doing, and it definitely sounds conceited, but, like, we were the best part of the show. Like, It was a lot of people singing these boring ass fucking songs, and then all of a sudden, like, this hilarious act of these two people, like, running around screaming, essentially. Because we did the Stuart and Doreen skits from, like, Mad TV, and people loved them, and we enjoyed doing it. Like, you know, I think it's because we had such a good time doing it and, like, working on it that it showed, and people enjoyed that. They responded to that, and then immediately it was just boring again as soon as it was over.
Yeah, I remember, like, hating the rest of the performances, like, singing, like, these boring-ass fucking songs, just, like, Mumford and Sons.
Yeah, and, like, none of them are talented. Like, that's the thing.
And, like, people, like, playing their trumpets.
And just, like, a lot of the people at Northwestern aren't that talented.
Yeah, that's for sure, yeah.
And
it was a small school, like, we didn't have many people, but, like...
And Mrs. Perks, at least, didn't have auditions for it, so it was, if you put in the paperwork, you were there. And so, you know, you'd get people up there singing, and people would actually make fun of them. Like,
no, yeah, we did all the time.
One year, a girl, it was, I don't know, do you know Devin Young?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's, like, morbidly obese, has kids, went to our school.
Yep, I know.
She sat there at Chiller Thriller and recorded...
Cooper.
Yeah, she sat there and recorded some girl singing, you wouldn't know. It was probably like Katie Keys. It was someone like Katie Keys. Recorded... No, but recorded Katie Keys singing.
We're just calling it Katie Keys.
And then posted on YouTube saying, like, fat bitch can't sing at Chiller Thriller, and, like, spread it around the school and was suspended for, like, a week because of it. Yeah, and, like, it was deleted and, like, all that stuff because it was actually bullying.
For sure Katie Keys did a really bad song.
Yeah, it was terrible.
There was that song, was it the song Katie Keys wrote?
No, it was before that.
Do you remember that song, though?
Yeah, I don't remember, like, what it sounded like or what it was. I know it was bad.
It was real bad.
But, no, this was, like, an actual, like, Demi Lovato song. So then after we graduated, like, when we graduated, we were like, we're gonna go to every, like, Chiller Thriller and Spring Fever and all the musical and all that stuff to, like, support our friends. And at first it was fun, but then you realize, like, like, this year when I went, I hardly knew anybody in it. Like, I hardly know anybody at Northwestern anymore. And, not that I care, but, like, and it was super boring because you didn't know them, and they were super not talented. It was, like, the most boring show I've ever been to in my entire life. Like, it was just song after song after song after song after boring fucking song.
What kind of songs they sing?
Honestly, like, I don't even remember. Like, because they were completely unmemorable.
Do you not have the, like...
No. Someone sang Chasing Cars. You remember that song?
Yeah.
If I lay here, but it was bad.
If I just lay here.
Yeah, but it was not good.
That's a good song, though.
And then,
Grey's Anatomy all the time.
There's this one group, there's this one, like, skit where they called it Beowulf, and it was, like, about Beowulf, but not.
Why are you putting quotes up for a
because,
Beowulf?
Like, because, like, it wasn't Beowulf, you know, like, we had to read Beowulf, but it was, like, a skit. It would basically be, like, how you would explain Beowulf to, like, a child. But even then, not really.
Like some guy, like, slays a...
Yeah, but it was, like, completely unrecognizable. Like, the whole time... Okay, like, so, like, this girl comes out and she has a sign that says fucking cheer. So we're like, woo! You know, like, we're cheering. And this little fucking, like, bitch comes out, and she's like, she's Grendel. Right?
I hardly remember.
Yeah, she's Grendel, right? And then, like, they're fucking rolling around in whipped cream on the stage or some shit. And then, like, we're supposed to go, Grendel, Grendel, woo! Grendel, Grendel, woo! I don't know what the fuck was going on. They're, like, rolling around in fucking whipped cream, screaming Grendel, Grendel, woo! And they're, like, wearing name tags and shit. And, like, Matt Tatman was randomly there.
This sounds like... Matt Tatman?
Yeah.
This sounds like some sort of, like, art show that would, like, go into, like, New York City.
Like a performance
for, like,
art?
Real artists.
Yeah. But, like, it wasn't. And I didn't understand it. And, like, someone was off stage, like, reading a script, like, over the... like... You know, they were saying, like, and then Grendel fell in the pit of whipped cream. Except, like, that's not what they were saying. Like, they didn't mention what the fuck was happening with the whipped cream. But for some reason, they were all covered in whipped cream by the end of it.
What the fuck?
And they were, like, in an argument, and, like, at one point...
I wanted to be there.
Yeah, and, like, at one point, Bree leaned over, and she's like, I'm pretty sure this is, like, porn. Because that's what it, like, they were, like, wrestling in fucking whipped cream. It was, like, two bitches, while this other, like, bitch was, like, reading the script
they're all
or whatever.
lesbians.
Well, I don't think they actually are, but one girl just looked like a lesbian, you know what I mean? And that's stereotypical as fuck, but, like, kind of true.
Yeah, they're lesbians.
And it was so bad. Like, it was so bad. And then, in the second act, yeah, there were two fucking acts, and it was terrible. Oh, I forgot to mention, Mrs. Perks tried to make us pay for our tickets. Really? Which never happens. Like, she emailed me the day before, and she was like, I have 2 seats, or the day of, and she's like, I have 2 priority tickets reserved for you, just pick them up when you get there and enjoy the show, like, tell me if you can't come. So we're like, cool. She's never made us pay for a ticket, like, me at least, she's never made me pay for a single ticket to anything ever. And we get there, and I was like, yeah, I have tickets for Zach Roberts, and she says, the note card says Zach Roberts, not paid. And the girl's like, that'll be $20, I was like, no.
$20?
Yeah, because it was 2 $10 tickets, and I was like, no.
What?
So I snuck in the back door.
And you just sat in the priority seating?
Yeah, I sat in the same seat that Mrs. Perks assigned for me, but I was not paying for it. Because even if she had told me to bring money, like, I would not have thought it would be $10. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I would never pay $10 for Chiller Thriller. Like, even when I was in it, like, I don't think it was still worth $10.
Maybe worth $3.
Yeah. And so
I paid
and
$3.
I was like, I honestly, like, it kind of hurt my feelings that she, like, made me pay. Like, I didn't matter anymore. Like, I was just another person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I guess, like, I talked to her after the show, and, like, that's not, like, I didn't mention that I didn't pay for the ticket, but, you know, I talked to her, like, I thought you hated me, like, because you wouldn't say hello, like, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, I got over it, of course, but at the time, I was very offended and I shouldn't have been, but I was very offended.
Did Bree sneak in the back door too?
Yeah, we both did. And we were both offended that she made us pay for the ticket. We told everybody we could think of because, it wasn't until we found out that someone else, like another student, also had to pay for their ticket that shouldn't. Like, Alec Foltz had to pay for his ticket, and he graduated.
Yeah.
And, But anyway, we, in the second act, they did, you remember, like, the Saturday Night Live, like, Celebrity Jeopardy?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
They did that, but with Northwestern teachers. But it wasn't the teachers themselves. It was students playing the teachers.
It sounds like it could have been good.
It had
the potential to be good.
It was probably the best thing of the night, but, like, it still wasn't that good.
Who did they do it with?
Dale Reno wrote it. You know Dale Reno.
He goes to the Northwestern?
Yeah.
He's in high school?
Yeah, he's only 17.
What?
No, I think he's a junior.
What the fuck?
Or a sophomore.
I could have swore he was like 22.
No. He wrote it. He played Alex Trebek. And then they had Addie Smith. You don't know any of these people. Addie Smith played Cindy Schroff. Some guy played Kevin Fraker, and Diabetes Landon Rohr played Mr. Stevenson. Not anybody that we know. He's not someone that we know. But
who is he though?
He's just a teacher. I don't know what he teaches. History maybe, and he's also this football coach.
It's not. So he's Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, but not Mr. Stevens. Yeah, and Mr. Fraker ran. Like, the actual Mr. Fraker ran the PowerPoint, which was like this, I'll take 200, you know what I mean? He sat off stage, though, so no one really knew that he was involved, but it was pretty funny,
Kevin
like,
Fraker is bisexual.
Yeah, maybe. Cindy Schroff made a poop joke, like she would.
She loves
like
poop.
Kevin Fraker was very dorky and professional, and Mr. Stevenson only talked about his turtle, which I guess he has a pet turtle in his classroom. Or whatever, and
kind of sounds like an ass.
Yeah, and he would be like pretty much like Mr. Stevens, a big fucking douchebag and a Republican.
You know who I love? Mrs. Fraker. They showed something of her.
Yeah, well, she's a bird. She looks like a fucking bird.
She does look like a bird, but she's nice.
Anyway, so it was interesting and it was like exciting. Like, people liked it and it was funny. It was very short. Some of these songs seemed like they were eternities long.
I would have loved to make fun of, like, teachers in high school.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I wish we would have did that, like, and really just, like, tore apart, like, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, and, like, fucked our fingers up. Like, it was very short, and, like, and because everything else seemed so long and it was so fucking boring, like, it seemed even shorter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really it was. They answered, like, one question and then it was over. But I guess the biggest story of the night was Topanga. There's officially a girl
named Topanga?
named Topanga at Northwestern. And, like, it has to be after Boy Meets World. Like, there's no...
Yeah.
Topanga's not a name. You know what I mean? Like, Topanga's not a name that, like, people give each other. Like, that's immediately a reference to Boy Meets World. And, like, I guess, like, high school age kids now, like, their parents... Probably it's like when they were teenagers watched Boy Meets World,
which is weird because like we watched Boy Meets World,
right? But we were like babies. But Topanga is a furry, and she had one of those like furry, like hats with like an ear, like with ears on it, and like one with the paws. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And she
like not like the full suit, just the paws on the head.
The ones that like attached to the head. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and she, I guess has like 3 different boyfriends. She did a skit with Conrad Nasal. Yeah, okay. Conrad Nasal was randomly in it. And...
Okay.
So, first she did a song, no clue what the song was, never heard it in my entire life, it was terrible.
If I just leave.
Yeah, not that. And so that was over, whatever, like we thought that would be the only time that we saw her. But then right before...
Was she in the furry outfit the entire time?
Yeah, same outfit. And then before before intermission, it was supposed to be after intermission, but before intermission, she came out and did, like, some weird, like, Next on ABC thing with, like, Conrad Nasal. It was fucking weird. It was, like, Halloween specials from, like, TV shows that don't exist. Like, I can't even explain it because it was so boring and so bad. And Mr. Mitchell, the new Mr. Yazel, and Mrs. Perks decided to close the curtain in the middle of it.
Mr. Mitchell,
No. And they closed the curtain on the middle of it.
He was there senior year, wasn't he?
Yeah. They closed the curtain on the middle of it.
Why?
Because it was so bad, and because it wasn't even supposed to be happening right then, and because Mrs. Perkins, like I talked to her after the show, and Mrs. Perks said they made the executive decision to cut her act in the middle of it because it was so embarrassing that she would have been made fun of. And so so in the middle of the act, the curtain starts closing, and Topanga screams, "No, you're not supposed to do that yet." And, like, tries to shove the curtain back, and they just keep closing it. And they're like, we'll have a brief 15-minute intermission.
That's fucked.
Yeah, it was awkward as fuck.
What if Topanga killed herself that night?
She probably should have, because it was that embarrassing.
Oh, God.
And then she comes back up later in the second act, and she's singing another song that I've never heard of with her actual boyfriend, because it's like a love song. And he's a fucking dweeb. Like,
Is he like the Kyle? Is he Kyle?
Kyle who?
Kyle.
Oh, no, not that kind of dweeb. Like,
should we talk about Kyle?
Like, no, he's not that kind of dweeb. He's like, he's more like Dungeons and Dragons dweeb. Well, like I guess
Ron and Ninehouse.
Yeah. More along Ron and Ninehouse. Do you know Christian Yarborough?
Nope.
That's who he looks like. He's like chubby, like a 13-year-old's mustache. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
and then
barely there.
yeah, and then like a unibrow kinda. Like a fading like a growing unibrow.
Like hideous.
Yeah, he's super hideous. Had like a mole on his cheek, and he's wearing like a
fedora.
No, yeah. I forgot about that.
He was
wearing a fedora,
of course.
And then he had like a casual Jack Sparrow outfit on. Like, if that makes any sense. Like a more casual version of Jack Sparrow. Yeah, and as he's standing there, like, holding the mic with, like, both hands. Like, he has, like, one hand on the mic stand and one hand on the mic. Yeah. And he's, like, rocking back and forth, like, super, like, hardcore rocking. Like, not just, like, swaying, but, like, actually, like, stepping off.
He's loving it.
Yeah. And he's, like, you know, like fucking bobbing his head and, like, mouthing so big. But, like...
You don't know what the song is?
No clue. But the words that are coming... Like, I'll sing it to Turn Back Time. But that's not what he was singing. But he was essentially doing like, but the song, his voice, his like facial expression, the way he was dancing and the way he was moving his mouth looked like he was screaming it. Like if you saw a video and it was muted, you would think he was screaming. But it was coming out like, if I could turn back time, if I could find a way. It was horrible. Like, it was so bad. And he, And the whole time, he's singing, like, his verses. Topanga is mouthing the lyrics, which is highly, like, unprofessional, like, in any setting. Like, you're not supposed to do that, like, when you're performing. And she's, like, sitting there, like, rocking out, like, mouthing the fucking lyrics, and then it's just, they singing together. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like, Bree and I were, like, dying of laughter. And, like, finally, when it closed, someone yelled encore, like, in a rude way. They were like, encore, like, do an encore. It was so fucking funny.
Everybody laughed?
Yeah, everybody hated it. Because he was dancing so hard and so intense. But so that's, cringy. Like, what it came... It was so cringeworthy. Oh, what was the other thing that was cringe? Chris Perkins. You remember Chris Perkins? Mr. President? That guy?
Oh, that, like... I hate Chris Perkins.
Yeah, I fucking hate Chris Perkins.
He's the Brandon Rogers of that class.
Even more cringe, though. Like, he's such a dork. Like, he is...
Was he like Brandon Regal type cringe?
Yeah. What did he do that was so cringeworthy? What did he do that was so cringeworthy? Oh,
Mr. President.
What did he do? Well, that, but he did something at Show Thriller, and I can't remember. He did, he choreographed, like, he did the whole, Watch Me Whip dance. Like 5 douchebag boys, and then Chris Perkins danced to Watch Me Whip. And it was so funny because it was one of those acts where you would think it would be a crowd pleaser because they're doing a popular song, they're doing a popular dance, and they're like 5 popular boys who are attractive, except for Chris Perkins.
Chris Perkins is kind of attractive. Yeah, she's like annoying.
Nobody clapped. Like, I imagined it was...
Not one person?
Well, they clapped, but I imagined it was going to be like, wow! Because, like, people... Yeah, like, so, you know, it seemed like a crowd-pleasing
I feel like that
act.
song is kind of, like, played, like...
And people were just like, you know, a polite applause. Like, it's over, but, you know, they clapped harder for fucking Topanga and her boyfriend, and that was terrible. And, you know, it was something that... Because, like, you know, at some point in the song, he says, like, break your legs, now break your legs, now break your legs.
I thought it said stanky leg.
He says stanky leg, but he also does break, like, so stanky leg, he went around and sprayed fucking, like, Axe on their legs, like, while he was doing it. And, like, on break your legs, he was going up and pretending like he was breaking their legs. It was real fucking cheesy. And when
Do you want to, like, cyberbully him?
Yeah. And when it started, like, he came out and, like, did a fucking backflip, like, on stage, because he's a cheerleader, also.
Okay.
And so he did, like, a backflip, and people, you know, and people were just like, neat. Like, I think people hate Chris Perkins.
I hope they do.
Then they also, I don't know why, but they did, like, fucking, like, patty cake on stage. Like, I don't know what it fucking was, because the mic wasn't working. I mean, it worked, but, like, you could not, there were 4 people sitting, two people sitting across from each other, and they were doing fucking and like singing, yeah. But I was like, why? This isn't like an audience thing. You don't do this for an audience. Like, this is nothing. Like, and they're still on stage because, like, the way Mrs. Perks does it is, like, she sends 3 acts out at once, and then they do 1, 2, 3, and then the next 3 acts come out, and they do 1, 2, 3, and you just wait on stage the whole time. And so they're sitting on stage, and Mrs. Perks is, like, playing music for someone. And, like, she's playing the vocal part, but only for them to hear. You know what I mean?
Oh, so they can,
and then, like, over the sound system is an actual, like, instrumental track.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Perks is running the instrumental track.
That sounds really elaborate.
Yeah, and he puts in the CD and he plays the wrong, it just automatically plays the first track. Well, they need the second track. And this is a different act. Like, this has nothing to do with Chris Perkins. Like, he's just on stage. And so Mrs. Perks, like, you know, like, starts, like, shaking, like, a peace sign in the air to say, like, number 2, you know what I mean? Like, change the track. And Chris Perkins, like, is sitting there and he, like, leans into the microphone, like, wrong track. They need the next track. Play track 2. Wrong track. They need track 2. Wrong track. I don't know. It just pissed me off because I was like, stop, Chris Perkins. Like,
I fucking hate the kid.
I genuinely hate Chris Perkins. There was something he did that was real cringeworthy, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, I remember. Okay,
yeah.
I remember. It was him and Landon Rohr, who has diabetes.
Why is that like...
Because that's, like, what I know about him.
Okay.
Like, he has diabetes, he tried to have sex with Jordan Burkhardt, and he has probably, like, a small penis. Or no, he had tried to have sex with Brett Hensley, too. So, like, clearly he's just horny. Because, like, it's Brett Hensley. And...
Brett Hensley, if you're watching, like...
Yeah, literally, like, you should, yeah. So, he comes out... It's so funny, like, Landon Rohr comes out, and he's like... Okay, the curtain's closed, and Mrs. Perks, like, randomly puts in, like, in between skit, like, acts, like, so she had people come out and tell, like, bad Halloween jokes that she wrote, so it'd be like, knock knock, who's there, boo, boo hoo, why you crying, you know what I mean? It was bad, like, it was already cringeworthy, but then he came out, Chris Perkins comes out, and he's like, hey, Landon, what are you doing? Or what are you doing for Chiller Thriller? And Landon's like, well, you remember that song I wrote last year about bananas? Or what, it was, hey, Landon, what are you eating for lunch? And he's like, well, you remember, well, you all know what I like. And he, like, looks out at the audience, he's like, do you remember the song I wrote? Like, he's like, you guys remember the song I wrote last year? Everybody's like, no. And Landon's like, it's about bananas. Sing along. You guys know the words. Nobody knew what the fuck he was talking about. And so, like, I'm in the second row, and I was like, we don't know. Like, we don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you were saying it just
like
that.
I like, just as loud as I would talk to a normal person, and I'm in the second row. Like, he heard me. And, like, he and Chris Perkins start going, like, peel, banana, peel the banana. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that, like, weird chant. Like, now go, bananas, go, bananas.
Yeah.
And they're, like, dancing in fucking circles. It was the cheesiest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But it was so funny because I'm sitting there like, he's like, sing along, you guys know the words. Like, first of all, it's not even a song. And I was like, no, we don't. Like, you literally just said, do you remember the song that we sing? And nobody said yes. Like, we do not know what you're doing. And he's just like,
Just imagine like them doing that your entire time. You're like, what are you doing? Like, we don't know.
Yeah, the whole time I just sat there like, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is. Like, peel, now go, bananas! And they were like, jumping and shit. And I was just like, I would rather be dead than like ever see this again.
Do you have like those moments like where you wish you had like a sniper rifle? Like Grand Theft Auto, and just like scoped in and just killed them?
Yeah, like I hate Chris Perkins. So that was Chiller Thriller, and I don't think, like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't go back. Oh, okay, so then, like, every year at Chiller Thriller, the last act, the whole show choir dances to Thriller. It's a dance that Mrs. Jensen's mom came up with, like, watching a Paula Abdul video. It's like, we've done it for years. And...
Why a Paula Abdul?
It was a Paula Abdul workout tape.
Okay.
And they, like, they did a dance to Thriller.
I'm gonna make a dance.
Yeah, she did a dance. That's Paula Dean. They did a Paula Abdul, like, workout dance to Thriller, and so she kind of, like, took some of that stuff and molded it into this dance. And so, when Mrs. Jensen left, you know, you had people who had, you know, you had seniors then who had known it for, like, 3 years with Mrs. Jensen. But now, as we get further and further away, now there is nobody at Northwestern High School who ever learned that dance from Mrs. Jensen.
Did you know somebody who knew the original?
Well, it's the same dance, but like each year it just gets like tweaked a little bit. You know, it gets like a little less crisp. You know, something small changes. Like you know, and now it's like I watch it and I'm like sad now because it's not good. Like it's not as good as what it should be. And it's because, like, you know, Mrs. Perks doesn't know the dance because Mrs. Perks didn't know the dance. You know what I mean? Like
she says, "Okay, do it."
Yeah, like she has students teach it because she doesn't know it. You know what I mean? Yeah. She should know it kind of by now. Like she kind of does, but like you know, Mrs. Van Gorder choreographed it and taught it.
Middle school choir teacher.
Ms. Van Gorder is Mrs. Jensen, but Mrs. Van Gorder is Mrs. Jensen's mom.
What?
Yeah.
So Mrs. Jensen is Mrs. Van Gorder?
Yeah.
What?
Did you really not know that?
No.
Yeah, when Mr. Smith died, Ms. Van Gorder, Mrs. Jensen...
What?
Yeah, Ms. Van Gorder got Mr. Smith's job when he died, and then when we were in 6th grade, in between 6th and 7th grade, she got married and became Mrs. Jensen.
Did not know that. That's fucking
You just
weird.
thought Miss Van Gorder died?
I thought she just quit or something.
Yeah, no, that's Miss Van Gorder.
I never paid attention to choir until I met you. Yeah. It was like sophomore year, so I just like, you're like, Mrs. Jensen. I'm like, yeah, Mrs. Jensen, whatever.
Well, by then it was Mrs. Perks.
Same, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, so Mrs. Van Gorder, Mrs. Jensen's mom, choreographed it, and then, you know, Mrs. Jensen took over after that. And so now, it's, you know, it's like years away from, like, what Mrs. Jensen would have had us do. And, you know, it's, like, a little sloppier each year, and, like, people mess up more often, and, like, you know, eventually it's just not going to even be, like, the same.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's, like, it was, like, sad to me, but not in, like, a nostalgic way. It was more of, like, this is sad. Like, it looks bad.
You're like a conservative who's, like, seeing America. Like, this ain't what... We used to be a country who prided ourselves on American values.
Exactly.
And moral... values, I guess.
Yeah. So, speaking of conservatives, that was a good segue.
Good segue.
The Republicans had their third debate, I think. It was horrible. Like...
Was it just boring?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't boring. It was, like, the most exciting one because they were all talking over each other. They were all fighting.
Oh, and now I wish I would have watched
it.
And
CNBC did a terrible job. Like, because of this...
What is the difference between MSNBC, NBC, and CNBC?
Well, they're all owned by NBC.
I realize that, but like,
MSNBC is just like liberal talk news, and CNBC is like finance. Like CNBC is where that like weird like money guy is. You know what I'm talking about? That like guy that has like that weird money show, like where he's like buy, sell, like crazy money or something weird.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then there's that, you know, that guy that the prophet or whatever, and then it's a fuck channel, like no one watches it, and it's because it's boring as fuck. Like
you say like CNBC, like you think of like C-SPAN, which is already boring.
Yeah, well CNBC is also like has a liberal bias to it, of course, but
good.
They
NBC is a shit.
It was so bad, like the Republican National Committee pulled out of any NBC debates. Like, they don't want NBC to have anything to do with their debates anymore because it was that bad. Like, CNBC was terrible at moderating this debate. So the first question they asked is, like, what is your biggest weakness? And my favorite answer was Ben Carson's, because he literally said, I think my biggest weakness is not really seeing myself as the president. What? And he's like, I didn't really see myself being the president until like hundreds of thousands of people told me to. What? Like, what does that even mean? Like, he's like now leading some of the polls, like, and he doesn't see himself being the president?
I hate Ben Carson. I have 2 stickers of him on my wall.
On your wall?
Yep, put them on my wall.
Like you unglued, like you stuck them to the wall?
I put double-sided tape on the like on the.
Yeah.
You know, like this. Anytime I could just peel off. Like I want to keep the sticker.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're on my wall.
And then there was one moment when, like, John Kasich's opening statement was pretty good, where he said, like, he completely ignored what's my biggest weakness, because that was, like, the opening statement, but he completely ignored that question. He was like, no, I want to take this opportunity to say, like, if we as a party nominate Donald Trump or Ben Carson, like, we're fucked, is essentially what he said.
Why Ben Carson? I feel like they like Ben Carson.
No, they don't like Ben Carson. Ben Carson's just as crazy. Ben Carson said if the Jews had guns, the Holocaust wouldn't have happened. Literally.
The Jews have guns. That makes sense.
No.
Well, how does that... Like, I feel like that's like... How does that not make sense?
I mean, it does, but, like, it's still fucked up. Like, the Holocaust was going to happen anyway.
Like, why did he even, like, say that?
Exactly. Because he was saying it in a way to support the Second Amendment.
Oh, I guess that makes sense, but, like...
And then, he's fucking stupid. Like, Ben Carson's fucking stupid. No, they don't like... Ben Carson and Donald Trump and, like, Carly Fiorina, like, none of the Republicans like them.
Really?
Yeah, because they
thought, like, Ben Carson was, like...
No, they have like, the actual Republican candidates.
The GOP.
Like, the GOP itself hates them because they're not establishment, they're crazy, they say whatever they want, and they have no governmental experience.
Even Carly Fiorina?
Yeah, even Carly Fiorina.
I didn't know they hated her.
Yeah, well, and because she's a woman. Like, they already started out hating her. But, so John Kasich was like, if we nominate one of these extreme candidates, like, we're fucked. Like, we will lose. The White House will go back to the Democrats, which, like, obviously isn't a bad thing for us. But I mean, like, to them, he's saying, like, we're fucked as a party if we lose this election, and I think he's right. If the Republicans lose in 2016, like, they're pretty much done. Like, I would think.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Because a lot of people thought that after the 2012 election, because,
Because Mitt Romney was just a fuck of a candidate.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, obviously we think Obama's good, but, like, Obama going into the 2012 election was a pretty weak president. Like, there was a lot of divide.
Yeah, because,
obviously
he
was
do as much as he said he
yeah,
would.
like, obviously he was going to win the Democrats, but in terms of, like, actually winning an election, you have to get some Republicans and independents to vote for you. And Obama was not in a good place to do that. Like, if there was ever an election that the GOP could have taken back the White House in the middle of a term, it would have been that one. Yeah. Like, the 2012 election, was theirs to lose, and they did. And, of course, like, we worked hard to do that, but, and they nominated a bad candidate, but, in all honesty, like, in all the people that ran in 2012 in the GOP primary, like, Mitt Romney was their best candidate. And that's sad.
Yeah, that is pretty sad, because he was, like, a fucking idiot.
And now, like, Jeb Bush was the front runner. And
now he's doing terrible.
Yeah, and now Jeb Bush is, like, 5th and 6th in the polls. And it's funny, like, in the first debate, it was like Donald Trump, Jeb Bush. And now it's like Donald Trump, Jeb Bush. Donald Trump, Jeb Bush. And then eventually, like, Jeb Bush is just not even going to be on the stage. Because he's going to have to drop out.
Good, because I don't like Jeb Bush.
I hate Jeb Bush. And I love, Bill Maher was talking about it on his show. He was like, are we going to, like, stop pretending that he's the smart Bush? Because, like, that's what they keep calling him. Like, he's the smart Bush. Like, Bill Maher's like, he's fucking stupid. Like, he's running a horrible campaign. He's not smart. Like, he's like, I don't think there is such a thing as a smart Bush. And I think he has a point. Bill Maher also called for the repeal of the Second Amendment.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on that note, I don't have anything else to say about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about
that
this.
One thing?
What?
Jeb Bush said something
Oh yeah,
Marco Rubio.
Jeb Bush.
I liked that.
Jeb Bush tried to. Marco Rubio's missed like all of his Senate votes since he started running,
which is bad.
Which is real bad. And so Jeb Bush, who used to be the Florida governor, and Marco Rubio, who is the Florida senator, Jeb Bush was like, Marco, like I supported you, I elected you, I helped elect you, and like, you need to show up. Like Floridians need a person who's going to show up and work hard for them, and I think you should like. He said you should be there. Like you only have to show up 3 days a week. Like you can still campaign, but you should, you should work hard for the people who elected you. You should do your fucking job. And Marco Rubio was like, well, Jeb, like you didn't complain about John McCain when he was doing it, and he missed his votes too. But you're only saying this because someone has told you that it will help your campaign, and it won't. And it was like a huge slap in the fucking face. Like
he answered it great.
Yeah, like as I was watching it. I watched that part live, and like when Jeb said that to Marco, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like because I thought it was good, and then immediately Marco like slapped him back, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like I hate them both. I think they're both shit candidates, but Jeb Bush, that was a lot of people said that if Jeb Bush does lose the nomination, which I think he will, if Jeb Bush ends up dropping out of the race, like that's the moment that sealed his fate. That's what they say.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That of in terms of like he's just a terrible campaigner, but like that was the moment that like when Rick Perry did the oops moment on that was the moment that sealed his campaign. They say that this will be the moment, like you'll see like his poll numbers drop, like if this is what it is.
Yeah.
If this is what if he does end up losing the nomination, like they think that is where he will start to slip. And I hope so.
Yeah, me too. Who do we want to be the candidate, John Kasich?
Well, it's an interesting question because it's like who do you want to be the candidate because you want them to lose? Who do I want to be the candidate to lose?
Who do I like?
I
feel like could legitimately win.
I want the candidate to be Donald Trump because we'll win.
Like who would win and
and it
wouldn't have to leave America because
I think John Kasich or Chris Christie,
they could never win.
Those are the two in the top 10 that would be the least terrible.
Like they're not gonna win.
They're not gonna win.
I think Ben Carson is going to win the nomination. I'm on the record right now. I think Ben Carson. Who do you think is going to be then?
I sincerely think it's going to be Donald Trump. I sincerely think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee.
Well, that's it.
And I think it's going to be Donald versus Hillary.
And she will beat him miserably.
Yeah, oh. Well, I told you Nate Silver's predicting a huge landslide for the Democrats, like 370 electoral votes.
Just like everything.
Yeah. Well, we're Democrats. Bye.
What about... And that's the last time I'm having the macaroni and cheese.